It's 1518 and Europe is teetering over an ocean of blood. If there's ever a good time to find a dead aristocrat splayed across the floor of your monastery, this isn't it. To make matters worse, the most convenient culprit for the powers that be to pin the whole mess on is the person that found the body, your friend and mentor. You, in this instance, is Andreas Mahler, a journeyman artist who has taken up temporary residence in Tassing to work in the Abbey's scriptorium, who takes it upon himself to find the true killer. You have too many suspects and not enough time to gather the evidence you need to convince the adjudicator and yourself that one of them is guilty. However you choose to spend your time, there are going to be stones left unturned and questions unanswered. It's not an RPG. You won't pour points into character stats at any point, but don't worry, if anything, that just leaves you more room for narrative choices to agonize over and regret over the course of the game's 20-hour runtime. Exploring a town and most conversations don't take time at all. Instead, most of the day concludes when you make a significant decision. The game almost always makes it clear when you're about to push time forward and, possibly, sacrifice an opportunity to pursue one of your other big leads. It works well. You're always wondering what you might have uncovered if you'd chosen option B instead of option A. And the game is never so kind as to tell you you've got the right culprit. I remain convinced that the person I eventually served up to the headsman's axe was just unlucky. I happened to focus on them instead of one of my other suspects and collected more evidence that pointed them out as a result. It'll take multiple playthroughs and a lot of different choices to paint a full picture of how all of Tassing's possible suspects really relate to the nobleman's murder. Cold comfort to the poor guy I sent to lose his head before a baying mob, though. There's the odd minigame, including a variation of a card game called Lansquenet that I liked so much I lost all of Andreas's money on it. But don't be fooled. They're more about taking a break from interrogations than posing a real mechanical challenge. For the most part, you're going to be exploring, chatting, and experiencing the game's rich and textured collection of fonts. And my god, the fonts. Never before has a game made such a conscious and incredible use of fonts. With no voice acting, everything in Pentiment comes down to the stroke of a pen. How Andreas perceives someone's status, social position, level of education, it's all encapsulated by the font the game uses to represent their dialogue. But Pentiment's real triumph is Tassing itself. As you traipse around the town and butt into the lives of the village families, you'll end up forming relationships with all of them. That makes it all the more difficult when you want to condemn a family man for a crime he may not have actually committed. It's great, but it's also related to my biggest issue with the game. While Pentiment is very good at defining all its weird early modern terminology, I found myself regularly losing track of Tassing's myriad characters, especially as they grew and changed over the course of the game. Tassing is a town riven with the contradictions of the 16th century. The peasants resent the priests are suspicious of the peasants, the town's tradespeople vacillate between the two, and absolutely everyone hates the stuck-up miller on the edge of town, who represents the first green shoots of capitalism that will, a few short centuries hence, come to obliterate this land and its way of life entirely. Pentiment is a rare beast, a relatively short gameplay-light narrative adventure from a studio renowned for its lengthy, mechanic-heavy RPGs. Even stranger, the team pulled it off with aplomb. Yes, there are some mechanical quibbles, and it did take some coaxing to get me to accept the central mystery's final resolution, but Obsidian's tight grasp of its subject matter and thorough understanding of exactly what it wanted to do with Pentiment has produced a game that I wanted to launch again as soon as I'd finished it. I want to see what happens when I pick a different constellation of background traits, pursue different leads, and pass persuasion checks that I failed. It's a short game by the bloated standards of 2022, but Pentiment is one I see myself replaying a lot in the years to come. I get the feeling that the time I've spent in Tassing has barely scratched the surface.